This is Raphael.
I am Loryn.
We're the Pacheco siblings, and welcome to the Hypercube podcast, a talk show in which two siblings converse about anything and everything. I'm getting better at that.
Yeah.
We haven't done this show long enough for that to be muscle memory.
To feel natural.
Right? It's not like the Resident Roleplay intro.
Right, yeah.
Which I haven't done in such a long time now that I'm worried when Prometheus comes up, I'm going to be rusty. And I'm going to butcher it live on Twitch.
Oh no. It's going to be live and it's like, hello, what comes next?
Well, speaking of Prometheus, we haven't talked about that yet. So before we get into what you're going to talk about, let me plug. Because we don't plug enough.
We don't plug. We need a plug.
We need a butt plug the plug.
Or let's go with that for now.
Apparently there are butt plugs in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which apparently we need to see. Very bad.
You know what? Just screw it. I want to watch this movie.
Obviously, yeah, Michelle Yeoh and the Lee brothers. Oh, there's so much there that we need to see. Also, apparently it's the same guy who directed Swiss Army Man. So,
I've heard of it.
Yeah, very quirky.
It looks very quirky.
So, what was I talking about? Resident Roleplay.
Yeah.
So,
and butchering the opening.
Prometheus is coming up. For those who haven't seen, we put out a trailer for Prometheus on our channel. I'd recommend you go see it, even if you don't watch Resident Roleplay. It's actually a pretty interesting little teaser on its own, because we call it a trailer, but it's basically like a little cinematic intro to Prometheus, and it's pretty exciting. A lot of production went into it. That was mostly you.
Yeah. And I feel proud. The response I've gotten to it, I thought I would just kind of like put it out there and it's just like, oh yeah, okay, good, that's done now. But it's like, oh, it's actually pretty good. I'm like, is it really? And like, it's pretty validating actually, because like obviously that's my character and my ex character.
My ex.
It's my ex, and that's my farewell to that character. Really, it really is, because like I'm never gonna play that character ever again, and like that is officially me hands off.
That is
from
true.
That point forward.
That is probably actually it's not.
Oh, that is true.
Maybe one of the last times that you ever voiced that character. You know what I mean? Yeah, that is a bit of a farewell. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, it's a great trailer. I love the way it turned out. I had fun mixing it, and it was great to only do that as well. Yeah. That's a lot of fun, having less involvement and having less responsibility.
Just doing the fun part.
Just doing the fun bit of just like, creative mixing. But you basically directed that trailer entirely, right?
Yeah, that was entirely my idea. I came up with that idea for
a long time ago.
Yeah, because like the original idea was just going to be a small little character vignette type of thing, just that I wanted to release just on my own about the character, and then I never ended up doing it, and it was perfect for hyping up this character's new role in the world.
Yeah, and the monologue that you wrote for it is surprisingly relevant, foreboding teaser material for this upcoming story arc, I feel. So,
and I feel a lot of that has to do with how well we've communicated what I want this character to be and what you're going to do with this character.
Yeah, and it seems like we have a surprising amount, I would say, of alignment on that. Because we talked a lot, even while you were playing Emil, we talked a lot about our ideas about the character and his philosophy and how you sort of interpret the Resident Evil world. And we shared a lot of notes about that even while the character was in play. And yeah, there was some exciting stuff and an exciting exchange of ideas, and then when you lost control of the character, that was
when I gave up control.
Yeah, gave up control of the character. Like a lot of that sort of discussion kind of came back to me, and sort of fell on me now as the impetus. But like he's definitely gone in a much different and darker direction than I was expecting. But it's been interesting to sort of write him as a villain and have the responsibility for that. And I only got to play him in his new self once, and that was during the final story arc when
we basically had to call a favor. I think.
That was a very interesting scene. The Deal with the Devil episode, I think I ended up titling it.
I love that episode.
It's very fascinating. But you said you were particularly happy with how that turned out and how I played him there. And so that felt very validating for me to hear from the creator of the character that I NPC'd the character well.
Beautifully, because you incorporated things into his dialogue, which were things that I said this guy would say. It's like, I think there was some very particular moments where you basically you lifted dialogue that we had privately that was never used. That I never used for this character in his dialogue when I was playing him. But I was like, these are the kinds of things he thinks. And you actually used some of those.
Yeah.
Those little
you gave me
bits.
one as well. You gave me one pre-written line of text that I had on standby as well, and I think I did get to use it in that interaction.
I don't remember which one that one was.
Yeah,
which
there was
that
one. I don't remember.
Okay.
It was so long ago.
Yeah.
That was more than a year and a half ago, Loryn.
Yeah, it's true. No, yeah, there was definitely the one that I remember very specifically that I was like, yes, this might have been the pre-written one. It may not have been. I think I was talking to Kevin, and it was like, this is my cross to bear. I think you said that specifically, and I was like, absolutely, yes, that is this character. I was just sitting in the back, just going like, yes, just you go, Emil, you beat evil.
Evil Emil.
Evil Emil.
Oh, yeah. It's super exciting, though, to return to Resident Roleplay. Obviously, that campaign had such a profound impact on all of our lives, like in ways.
No joke. It has changed the course of our life.
It has changed the course of our lives profoundly in ways that we're not even talking about publicly. It's like it was such a formative experience, and that campaign will always have a special place in our heart. And it's really exciting to return to it for one last ride, to give some closure to the storylines that we left open.
Yep.
And I'm really excited and nervous for Prometheus to step back into the GM seat for the first time in such a long while. But hopefully it'll be worthwhile and be a very interesting story and very interesting last hurrah for these characters, which it likely will be.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Or as in it likely will be the last.
Yeah. I am absolutely looking forward to just killing the heck out of my ex character.
Well, that's one way to do a send-off. But yeah.
I just hope I don't die again.
Hopefully. Resident Roleplay Prometheus coming this summer, and be on the lookout for that. We'll probably be releasing a schedule of when that's going to start airing, but to give a little bit of a teaser, we have started recording material for it by way of prologue solo sessions, which I'm very excited for. More on that later, but I just want to drop that here. Special Hypercube podcast exclusive announcement for Resident Roleplay. Yeah, those are forthcoming, and we will be announcing a release timeline schedule soon. But in the interim, we started re-releasing character playlists on Spotify. Now that because of this podcast, P-Cubed has an official Spotify account. So I was like, how about we just re-release those playlists in a more finalized, refined version on Spotify, which is what, a lot of people do.
It's a little more official.
It's a little more official. It's a lot less clunky than a YouTube musical playlist. Yeah. You don't have to worry about ads as much.
You can have personalized playlist cover art.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's probably why, people like Critical Role do that for their character playlists. So I was like, yeah, might as well, since we have that account now, do that. So that's just as an additional promo thing. We are re-releasing all of the character playlists for Resident Roleplay as Spotify playlists, and we're adding in a couple of bonuses.
Yeah.
Because there are some characters that we had not unveiled playlists for before that are going to be getting theirs as part of this run. So keep an eye on our social media and on the website and things like that. All that is coming along nicely.
Yes.
Anyway, so what's up with you?
I have been preparing for flights, Raph.
Right.
And
you've got a big trip coming up. Have we talked about that?
We have talked about it once.
I think we talked about that, but I didn't think we talked about it vaguely.
We talked about it very vaguely. We didn't say I believe we didn't say anything about it.
We didn't. Well, here's the thing. We are security conscious people. So oftentimes we are by default, when we're in front of a microphone, talking in abstract or talking without
in generalized terms.
Releasing identifying information.
Right.
So I think we're at the point now, though, where we could talk a little bit more openly about that. Yeah. But it's interesting how, I guess that is a thing, because we are both so security conscious that we tend to default to that, even if not intentionally. Right. Just as soon as we're in front of recording apparatuses, we just have...
Don't say anything incriminating.
Well, that's one way of putting it. But yeah, we just have a consciousness about that. How much... Well, that's probably a whole other episode topic that we could do the whole episode on. Security consciousness in this day and age, especially with your cybersecurity.
Right. I'm not sure if you remember this, but last episode, in your horoscope, one of the last line in that horoscope was, security is one of your life goals.
Again, though, one of the most relatable speeches for all humans.
What is the opposite of that, right? It's just like, I crave insecurity. It's like, no, nobody thinks that.
Well, some people crave danger.
That is
What do you think about that? They wouldn't be able to relate to that. Well, that would probably dock it the 0.5 for them.
That brings it down to that brings it down to an even 4.
Yeah. Anyways,
so
what do you got?
I've got a big trip planned. I'm gonna be flying overseas. Oh, first of all, I'm taking basically 1.5 trips.
Right.
So I've got 2 plane journeys that I'll be going on. The first one, I'll be going down to LA, and I'll be staying there for a few days. And that's, so far, completely fine. No problems there.
You're going to be a creator.
I know.
Moving to LA.
I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to be starving. I'm going to be a barista.
You're gonna shoot a vlog.
I'm going to shoot some vlog material.
You're gonna record a podcast.
I'll be recording podcasts in LA, the home city of podcasts. I don't know if that's true, but
well, yeah. I think I told you that joke about what do you call a group of dudes in LA? A podcast. So yeah, I'll be going to podcast. Going to Podcast Central. I'm going to Central Podcast. I'll be in LA for a little bit, and then I'm going to be heading overseas. However, that trip is really messing with me, man. I have had some issues. I have had some issues getting this plane ticket going. So first of all, really quick, are we allowed to talk about where you're going on the second
I'm
trip?
not sure yet. I think by the time I'm there, we'll talk about where I'm at. You know what? I think we can. I think it's
because this is going to air.
Yeah.
Well, before you go on that trip, but when you're already on the
This
journey.
will air when I leave. This will air the day that I leave for LA.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. I'm going to Australia. I don't want to, I don't want to trash any particular airline in particular. So I'll just make up an airline. Fiji Airlines. That's a joke. It's Fiji Airlines.
Is that the real airline?
They're really making me mad. I don't know what it is. But first of all, their website.
Oh boy, now we've descended to the RT podcast point where we just complain about flights.
Yeah,
and
we're there.
Customer service issues.
Yes, it's oh my gosh,
public complaints of customer service issues.
Their website, for some reason, does not like my laptop.
What do you mean it doesn't like your laptop?
I have gone to the website and it's like, okay, I would like to do something like book a flight, and the website will go, sure.
Seems like a pretty straightforward thing to do.
Here you go. Here's all your flight information, all this stuff. Well, would you like to check out? Yes, please. Click. And then 5 minutes later, the website crashes. Like it'll just load, and it's like, am I going into checkout? Did I even pay for this flight? I genuinely don't know. Did I just spend $1,000 and not get any confirmation? And then I'm like sitting in like complete anxiety for like 5 minutes, and then I was like, okay, I check my bank, nothing on the bank. I check the website, like, okay, I don't seem to have anything on the website that would say that I have confirmed this flight. Okay. Take a deep breath, and let's just do it all over again. And then the same thing will happen on a different page.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, now I'm on the part where I'm picking my seats on the flight, and then it just loading, and then crash. Oh, it was so frustrating. It was so frustrating. Eventually, what we had to do was I just had somebody else make the booking for me, and it was just beep. All straight through. It's like I just gave them all my information. Like, screw it. Here's my credit card information. Here's my social security number. Here's my passport number. I don't even care anymore. Make this for me. And then it's just like boom, instantly done, just like that. I was like,
somebody you trust, of course.
Well, of course, somebody I trust. But it's like, was it really that easy? Was it just like it was just not me doing it? Was it just because I'm the one who was making this flight that it now works all of a sudden? I don't know.
Yeah, that almost seems like the last thing you want. And that's what kind of frustrates me with a lot of different industries. A lot of industries, especially that have money, is you would think they would take all that money and making sure their infrastructure is tip top and immune to this sort of stuff. Because the last thing you want when you're making a big trip is anxiety in the checkout process. Yeah. Like that's not the part where anxiety is supposed to come in. So you want that part to be seamless so that people can be worried about the things that matter, not actually acquiring the ticket or loading the web page.
Yeah. Getting onto the website should be the easiest step.
It should be, right? In theory. Like you are literally defying gravity and going to a different like landmass. Like getting on the webpage should be the easiest step.
Yeah, I am flying over one of the largest bodies of water on the planet. I feel like that should be the thing I should have anxiety about. Yeah,
I feel you. That's one of the things. That's one of the things I think I've complained about rather recently is like, especially in, I don't know if it's just here. Maybe it's just because we're in a small town. But in my experience, like medical practices, like with some, not all, but like a lot of like dentists or small clinic physician places like will have just really janky infrastructure.
Oh, it's old.
And yeah, just really old methods for collecting your money. That's just like, it's weird. Like, you're telling me I have to write a check, for you
in this day and age.
In this day and age, like I can't believe some of the antiquity that you have to put up with at like straight up medical establishments. You would think that would be very modern and up to date with their collecting of your money. You know what I mean? With just how much that whole process is worth.
It may not surprise you to hear me say this, Raph, but it may surprise you to know that that's actually extremely common.
Really?
Yes. In the medical industry, that is actually a known issue in the medical profession, that they utilize and hang on to old, antiquated infrastructure, especially literally the computers that is used to log data, as well as the systems that is used to hold data, simply because it is hard to move all that data across and know that somebody's entire medical history will be kept intact between systems. That is extremely scary. That if you switch over your entire system, and if a bug happens and all that information is lost, that is a lot of people who will be might not have access to life-saving medication, or if they're in the middle of a treatment, may not be able to complete that treatment. That's the kind of thing where it's just like, it's not the best thing that we have right now, but changing this is extremely, extremely risky.
So change if it is to happen, has to happen very gradually.
Very gradually. And that's the thing, is it can't keep up. It can't keep up with how fast
technology develops so fast, but it's so old.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe that I'm writing a check to pay for a service in 2022.
And that's why it's like you walk into like a surgeon's place, and it's like you have the most top of the line robot that's going to be doing some like non-invasive gallbladder surgery or whatever. However,
and then you get snail mail for your payment.
Yeah, and then they're just like okay, we'll send you a bill. We'll send you a bill. It may arrive in a week or more.
Yeah, and when you get it, you literally got to put in your information or a check and mail it back to us.
Mail it back. Yeah. And it's just like completely
ludicrous.
Yeah,
it's madness.
The systems that's used for that kind of stuff it's known that it's an issue. There have been
added to the list of known issues.
Added to the list of known issues. We talked about that last time. There is a push to update the infrastructure for medical stuff.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that it's at least a known issue and that there is a push, because it seems a little ridiculous to me. Like it's very odd. But yeah, I suppose I hadn't thought about that. That is a little bit more your wheelhouse. You tend to know the medical industry better than I do, just because you've been sort of adjacent to it and also actively study it. So yeah, thanks for that little bit of insight. That's something I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of the reasoning behind it. I feel like I've learned something today.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasonings behind it as well, but that's kind of like one of the more easy to understand, that like anybody can just understand. It's like, oh yeah, all of my information, especially if you have chronic diseases or suffer from chronic illnesses, that's the kind of thing that's immediately just grabs on. It's like, yes, that would be a problem if suddenly nobody knew that I had these issues. But there's a lot of things that go into it as well. However, I would like to continue ranting about Fiji Airlines if I
Oh boy,
I'm
you
not
have more to
yet.
say. You're not done with them? That seems like a bad problem.
We were talking about the terrible infrastructure and the way just we interact with these giant industries. I would like to continue ranting about how terrible the infrastructure is.
Oh boy.
Because
does it get worse?
It does get worse. I did buy that ticket. I did. I have the ticket.
Right.
I did get a confirmation email saying you have this ticket.
Okay.
Here's the confirmation number. Here are the flights that you will be going on. This happened, I want to say, a couple days ago. I checked the website. Let me manage my flight, because I think I needed to like input seats or something like that. It's like, okay, let me just double check to make sure this flight is exactly how I need it to be. Let me double check I have the right luggage requirements and all this other stuff. I click on it, and you know what it told me? It told me no such booking existed. All of that work. And it's like, I have the email with my flight information. I have the itinerary. I'm looking at it right now. How are you telling me there is no such booking?
And you got charged?
I got charged. So I emailed customer service, and I was like, here's everything that's happening. Here are screenshots of my itinerary that you have sent me, and here's what your website is telling me. Here is my ticket, and here is you telling me I don't have one. Send it off. You know what they replied with? They replied with something along the lines of, it's like, okay, hello. It appears that the problem is you put in the wrong booking number. And I was like, I sent you 2 screenshots that have the same booking number of the one that I have and the one I'm looking for. You can see it's the same booking number.
Oh no. Oh no.
So then I was like, ugh, gotta call them. So we called them up, and it turns out there was evidence in their system that I had tried to make that purchase, and a system error negated it.
What?
Something happened in like the
So it negated the purchase, but they still charged you.
No, on their end. So everything went in. It was all fine. However, a system error didn't like log that it happened, I guess. So like it like internally, it's all there. Like the customer service representative was like, "Is this your flight?" Name all this stuff. I was like, "Yes, that's it. Those are the planes that I'm going to be on. Those are the times that I am leaving. That is the correct booking number that I have." And just like, "Yep, it was just a system error. You just can't see it."
Wow.
And so eventually we get everything kind of worked out, and then I guess she just manually re-put in all the information onto the website so that I can access it via like their manage flight tab, go in, double check everything's fine, and okay, yes, everything's good. Finally, that was 1 week before departure. That would have been terrible if I checked in any later. But man, I don't understand how that happens. Yeah. I don't understand how that happens.
In such a lucrative industry as that, it should not happen.
That shouldn't.
It should not.
Like everything went through. Like I got charged. I had the confirmation email, and it was just like, nope, system error. We just don't have it.
Yeah. That seems like surely they could give you some sort of compensation for that level of anxiety and inconvenience, because that should not happen.
Maybe I should sue them now. Man, I'm like the representative though was very helpful. She was great. Mm-hmm. She helped get everything
5 stars
going in. Yeah, like,
they ask you to review.
Yeah. The one person is like, oh, let me get your name so I can write a review. 5 stars. The actual service 1. It's just been problems with this specific airline. It's been problems from start to finish.
That sucks, man.
Probably gonna take a different flight if I head back out again. I'm gonna take a different
airline.
Different airline.
Yeah, that's sketchy.
It's real sketch.
That's the thing with our particular, how should I say, attitudes, the way we live life. We could wreck a support ticket. You know what I mean? Like we'll come up with screenshots.
Yeah.
We'll like explain thoroughly in clear and concise technical language what the issue is and what we've done and haven't done.
Yep.
We'll have numbers. We'll have affidavits.
We come in with the receipts.
Come in with the receipts. Like we're thorough.
Yeah.
There could be no argument, and then they come in and be like, you put the number in wrong.
Have you tried turning it off and back on again? What?
That's always frustrating, because it's like I know how thorough we tend to be with these things.
But he also kind of have to know, is like, I'm sure that's just a protocol of just like 90% of the time that'll fix whatever the problem is. Whatever response that they give at some, like, 90% of the time, that's the right response.
Yeah, but it's like super frustrating. I remember I had one that still hasn't been resolved. I just sort of gave up on it.
Oh no.
And I won't say what company it was with, but yeah, it was basically literally a situation where I explained in great detail what the issue was and asked if they could resolve it. And like, you ever get that thing where you get bounced around between multiple representatives because it's on like a text chat or whatever?
Yeah.
And it's just a roulette of customer service people who are just coming in
and
trying to identify your problem immediately and then offer some sort of solution. And not a single one of these people on this chat roulette of customer service people could even comprehend what I was saying, no matter how clearly I typed it out. Like, it's just like, you're literally not reading what I'm saying.
Oh,
that's like the whole issue here, is that you are not reading what I wrote down.
Yeah.
It's infuriating.
That's a reading comprehension issue right there.
That's a reading comprehension issue.
I'm sure a lot of it too is like all these people are like third-party call center type people as well.
You're telling me they're from India?
I can guarantee you that at least half of them were from India. I imagine a lot of that is just like they don't actually know what the internal structure of like whatever system it is looks like.
Yeah,
they're given a list
of free advice.
Yeah, they're given a list of fixes. There's like, if this happens, say this. If this happens, say this. Mm-hmm. And then you come in with this very detailed, specific problem, and they look at their sheet and go, that's not on here. Maybe I'll send it to the guy next door. Maybe he has it on his sheet, and then that guy goes like, I have the exact same sheet as that guy next door, but it's not on here still. And then it's just bouncing back and forth with just people who don't actually know what the problem is, but have a very hands-off kind of like big picture idea of the problems that generally might pop up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably why companies like Amazon have replaced those jobs with robots nowadays. And people who can actually help are the actual chat people that you can get a hold of.
You need to get, get in contact with an actual IT guy.
Yeah, because I was a little frustrated at first when they changed it to robots on their initial contact support thing, because it just feels like another dark pattern from Amazon, which Nerdwriter has a great essay about detailing what exactly that means. But
indeed,
yeah, that's what it felt like. But at the same time, when you put it that way, it's like, yeah, a robot could and should do that job.
Yeah.
If that's all you're going to get out of it is predetermined responses and they can't actually change anything, then yeah. But at least they do have that layer where you can still access a person eventually if you need to.
It's just an extra filtering.
Yeah,
step.
Exactly. Because it probably will save a lot of time and money, which,
because like I said,
as we all know, Amazon is in the business of saving time and money.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the one thing that they do is they make and save money.
Which are really one and the same when you think about it.
You know what I was saying earlier? It's like 90% of the time, I don't know what the exact number is, will mostly just boil down to, did you turn it off and back on again?
Exactly.
And you don't need a person to tell that over and over and over again.
That being said, Amazon is still a vehemently anti-consumer company, and I want to make that clear that I'm not endorsing their tactics in it in any broader sense, because they have a lot of dark patterns about their infrastructure and their website. They are very anti-consumeristic. It's an issue. It's a known issue.
Yeah,
add that to the list of known issues.
If you want to kind of intuitively understand what a dark pattern is, if you have an Amazon account right now, try to delete it.
Yes, that is one of the textbook examples.
Don't actually delete it. Just see if you can. See if it's possible to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can guarantee you it's going to take at least an hour before you give up. And that's kind of the point.
There are a lot of websites and a lot of big sites, a lot of big companies that employ these kinds of tactics, dark patterns on their web design. And it's inherently predatory and very problematic.
Yeah.
So, that being said, I think that's kind of the main stuff we wanted to talk about for this episode. I think we hit some big points. Shall I educate you a little bit?
Raph, I would like to be educated.
All right, let's talk about, let's go into a segment. So, did you know? So, Loryn, did you know about the Pillars of Creation? I'm sure you do.
I am familiar with the concept.
So, for those who don't know, the Pillars of Creation are a famous photograph taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. We're going to space.
Ah, yes.
So, famous photograph taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. It was originally taken in 1995, but I think what a lot of people know is apparently there's a higher resolution photo also taken by the Hubble Space Telescope in 2014. That's an homage to the original, just replicating the same composition, but at a much higher resolution.
With newer technology.
Yeah. And I don't know how that works. Do they upgrade these space telescopes? I suppose that's more that is more the sort of scientific domain. Are these things that are actively worked on throughout time?
I'm not sure about the Hubble specifically, but yeah, usually these things are the basic maintenance is done on these things. I don't know if parts are swapped out and upgraded, but usually basic maintenance is kept on these things. I'm not sure about the Hubble telescope because I don't know where the Hubble telescope is off the top of my head, whether it's in our orbit or if it's way off on some other Lagrange point, which is a whole thing, somewhere outside of easy access from Earth.
Right.
However, what those things where the upgrades usually happen is on the software side, on how to process the data and how to compress and read data coming in from Hubble and changing how it takes photos as well. Changing the software of how it
processing.
Changing the process of how it takes photos and how it sends it to us. That's where a lot of the improvements in the quality of the images would come from, as well as maybe just taking longer photographs.
Right. Exposure time and stuff like that.
Yeah, longer
settings, essentially.
It's just changing settings with the same camera.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's true, because I imagine it'd be very difficult once launched to change out the sensor.
Yeah.
So to describe it briefly, it's this famous photograph of interstellar gases, apparently, are what they are.
Yeah.
in the Eagle Nebula, interstellar gas and dust and various other particles that form basically these massive, colorful pillars that are doubtless huge, astronomical in scale.
Actually, yeah.
Literally astronomical, just cosmic size proportions we're talking about here.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about these things particularly is like if you were to be inside of one of those, it wouldn't look like anything.
Exactly. You wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah, because it's just
so huge.
The amount of space between each of these particles is, it's literally astronomical.
Yeah, like, literally astronomical.
What you're seeing is like the conglomeration of light bouncing off of atoms and molecules and little specks of dust that, when you back up far enough, creates a structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very beautiful. Honestly, it's probably one of my favorite pieces of space photography ever.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful image, beautiful composition, very colorful, and just very, it's just one of those things that I look at and just am in awe of God's creation, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about. So that's what I want to get to. So love that photo. I'll probably put in the show notes images for the original version and the
2014?
the retaken one in 2014.
Yeah.
Because they're both great. Honestly, I think the 2014 one obviously is superior on a number of levels.
Technical level.
Just on a technical level, it's the same image essentially, though. So, very famous classic photograph. And what I didn't know, so a while back, I had the opportunity to preach another sermon at my church, which they asked me to do on occasion whenever the pastors need a fill-in. So when I took that opportunity, though, I came across this piece of information while I was researching for that sermon, which I did not know where the name Pillars of Creation came from. And do you know where that name came from?
Not necessarily.
It surprised me.
I know. Okay, so Pillars of Creation as a concept, I am familiar with. There are different belief systems that have their own pillars of creation, sometimes literal.
Yeah, like a turtles all the way down kind of thing.
Yeah, as in, no. I'm thinking of the pillars of heaven is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that might be more
I think that's
broad concept.
I think the pillars of heaven is
something upholding
Taoist?
the heavenly realms.
Yeah, I think that there's a Taoist belief of the pillars of heaven, and as actual pillars holding up the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pillars of creation, I am vaguely familiar, but I don't actually know where it comes from. I don't know who thought of it first.
Yeah,
or what it even is, what it represents.
The pillars of creation, that phrase, that term, is specifically lifted from a sermon by Charles Spurgeon. Does that name ring any bells to you?
No.
I don't know if you would know that name.
No.
Charles Spurgeon was a very influential English preacher. Probably very much was the most influential preacher of the 19th century. He was in Victorian England sort of era.
Oh, wow.
And very, very famous and influential English preacher. Just a legend in his own field.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and he has many famous sermons, a lot of which you can find published nowadays in writing. Yeah, apparently that phrase was lifted specifically from a Charles Spurgeon sermon, in a sermon titled The Condescension of Christ. And let me read to you specifically the quotation of when this comes into play, because I thought it was actually quite moving. And Spurgeon says, speaking specifically about the birth of Christ, "And now wonder ye angels, the infinite has become an infant. He upon whose shoulders the universe doth hang, hangs at his mother's breast. He who created all things and bears up the pillars of creation hath now become so weak that he must be carried by a woman." And, oh man, I thought that was pretty interesting to see this great scientific advancement of a space telescope existing to begin with, being used to photograph just a beautiful image of something that's out there in creation, and having only religious language available to possibly name this image.
Right. Well, that's part of, we talk a lot about the difference between like the purposes of scientific and religious operation. Like they operate for different purposes. Science can only observe. But to
It's
describe,
inherent to the scientific method.
but to describe what you observe requires poetry.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's again part of this frustrating thing about culture wars is they're often put into opposition needlessly.
Yeah,
and I think we both agree that it's very needless.
It's
Even if we don't
needless.
agree about worldviews, we can agree that framing science and faith as opposing forces is completely needless. First off, science isn't a worldview.
Yeah. If you believe in science, you are not a scientist, you are a religious zealot.
Well, there's a name for that. That's called scientism.
Yeah.
Right? So scientism is a worldview, right? Which is arguably very deficient worldview, but it is a worldview, right? That would be a worldview. Science itself is not a worldview, though, which is why people of all different beliefs can come together in the scientific field, right? A majority, despite the fact that we have the new atheist movement, right? What's called the new atheist movement is otherwise known as scientific atheists, right?
Are those like the Richard Dawkins and...
that's that whole generation that came in and strongly associated what you would call essentially the atheist religion with science, right? And made sure that the two were intertwined. And that, of course, because culture war stuff, that gave rise to a lot of opposition on the Christian end, especially on the religious right, and a lot of cultural forces and people that arose to fill as an antithesis to that gap. People like Ken Ham, right?
Right.
Would arise in opposition to that. And it just fuels so much needless conflict when you realize that these aren't things that are inherently, opposed. Right. Because, I mean, granted, it's very profitable conflict.
Of course.
It has made people like Ken Ham and Richard Dawkins very notorious and very wealthy, let's be frank.
Yep.
And so, but that's the problem with the culture wars in general, is that the culture wars are profitable.
Well, any decisiveness can be leveraged for monetary gain if you are raised in a capitalist society.
That's fair. But anyway, I thought the Pillars of Creation, I'm surprised I didn't know that just by how much fondness I have for that particular photo. I didn't know its origins in the root of its name there, and I thought that's kind of a beautiful union between the two. But anyway, that's just sort of something I wanted to teach you about. I didn't know if you knew about that.
No, I didn't know that at all. Pillars of Creation was something that I had assumed rather that it was something that was like universally understood, I guess, within like the religious communities, of just like the pillars of creation either are pillars metaphorically, like, are, 4 pillars are blank, 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 and blank, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that was just some dude riffing.
That was Charles Spurgeon, man. Charles Spurgeon gave name to that photograph.
Also, again, just talking, like, that was his speech that you read.
Yeah, that was an excerpt.
That is beautiful poetry.
Beautiful poetry.
Yeah. The infinite has become the infant. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff. He had a way with words. And I love that imagery. Yeah, the infinite has become infant.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, that's the paradox of Jesus, is that this is God incarnate. And like, that's the only language, not the only language, obviously, but like, that is a strong form of language to turn to when you have to describe something so cosmic as what you're seeing in the Pillars of Creation, right? Like something so unfathomably huge, but yet beautiful and elegant.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's awesome. It's awesome.
It's literally awesome.
Yeah, literally awesome. Yeah. We use that word very irreverently nowadays, but
to cause a sense of awe.
Yeah, cause a sense of awe.
Amazement.
There's something to that. So anyway, that's all I got for I think this was my first Did You Know segment.
I think it might have been.
Yeah, you've handled all the others, but there you go. There's something that I discovered in sermon prep one time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Alrighty. So I do have others on the docket though. So you'll be educated by me again at some point.
Of course.
I feel like you teach me a lot more than I teach you when it comes to the conversation pieces that this segment arose from. But I do have some things every once in a while. I feel like I teach you more in our free form though.
Absolutely. Well, that's a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of the things that you
have a lot of facts.
I am extremely good at, rather, I should say, I am extremely full of trivia.
Yeah.
And that's like things that are like small consumable, just bite-sized bits of bam
information,
and it's just like, you know, I could just present it and let it go, and that's its whole thing. I've got a lot of those. Like, I know a lot of the things you tend to educate me on are more on like lengthier, require a lot more in depth.
Yeah, I suppose so. But still, I got some.
You got some.
So
I'm excited. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to hear more. I mean, learning, it's a thing, and
learning is fun.
It's fun.
Well, we are compulsive learners, so that's why it's easy to keep this
really
podcast
hard.
Indefinitely.
It's really hard to go about my day and just not learn something.
It actually is. It requires some serious restraint if I were to try and do that. But that's the thing is, I think we have a passion not just for learning, but also for teaching.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like knowledge is incomplete until we pass it on to someone else.
Well, yeah.
That's part of the joy of it.
One of the markers of true understanding is the ability to teach what you know. If you can't teach it, you don't really understand it.
Yeah. I definitely believe that. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I think that's all the time we have for this episode.
Yeah.
So thank you all very much for listening. This show is edited by Loryn Pacheco, mixed by Raphael Pacheco, with theme music by Mono Memory. Until next time, we'll see you all later. God bless.
Adios, amigos.